this is a video for two aprons that I made at once, a blue one and a pink one. This is the pattern that I've used. I used this one here, the small one for the little blue apron, and that's for a 1 to 3 year old. This one, the middle one here, is for a 4 to 10 year old, and then this one here is for a 10 to 15 year old. I will put the link at the bottom of where I got this pattern, because I did get it off the internet. It's a free pattern. So you can see what you have to do here is you fold the fabric and you cut it 8.5 inches across and 20 inches above, and then this is a 3.75, and I didn't do it exact, and then 14.5 inches for the little blue apron, and you also need for the straps, there's a channel there, and you'll see this in the video where I've sewn a channel for this apron, because I like the fact that there's only one tie at the apron at the bottom here, or sort of there, and it's one continuous piece of binding that I made. So for the 2-year-old, for the little one, you need 72 inches by 2 inches. For this one here, you need 96 inches by 2 inches, and for the larger one you need 120 inches by 2 inches. So I made my own bias binding just by folding it and ironing it. So for the fabric I've used some polyester cotton, and these were actually sheets and duvet covers that I bought. So they're ideal, and this apron is lined, so it's got double thickness on it, but very nice and easy to cut out and sew. For the unicorn apron, for the 4-year-old's apron, this was the front and this was the back, and again this was a duvet cover, a new duvet cover that I bought for cushion. So this was just scraps that I used for this apron. So what I realised after I'd sewn the grey and the blue together, I realised that I needed to turn in and seam the side pieces from the back tie down, because when you pulled the ties it pulled the inside, pulled a tiny bit of the inside out. So what I did, I went back to the machine, I went along all the way along the side. This is going all down the side to the bottom of the apron on both sides. I always use a little piece of scrap fabric to stop the bobbin pulling the thread. On this section now, what I've done is once I've put the two sides together, I'm sewing over the seam just really close to the edge, and this is why I've slowed the sewing machine down. I like to use the buttons on my sewing machine, it's a Brother sewing machine, so I'm really going quite slowly here all the way around the arm hole section, and doing a really neat line which is holding the fabric down. So you can see that I'm stopping and starting to make sure that I've got right on the edge there, so it's the narrowest little seam all the way along. And then I use a scrap of fabric there to stop the bobbin pulling the thread through, cut that off, and then turn it round, and I've left a gap there. Can you see I've left a little gap there? I've double sewn, and then go along there all the way down the bottom to the bottom of the apron. That's it, nice and narrow and close to the edge. And I'm now doing it along the bottom where I've doing a nice neat hem. So this is lined now, and I'm working on the outside of the apron. And then turn the apron round and back up the other side. I tend to find that sometimes if I don't hold the fabric at the back of the machine, that it starts to slip. I get really frustrated then. So here I'm back stitching as well, so the stitches don't come out, and now I'm back on the other arm bit where the strap, you'll see I've left a gap there on the left there, and that's for the bias binding. So nice and slowly all the way around. I don't want it to pucker, I want it to stay nice and neat. This is the first time I've made this apron, and you notice when I'm doing the pink one I'm a little bit more confident because I've learnt from doing this blue one. And then scrap of fabric there to hold it down, and there's the apron. So I moved quite quickly on to the pink apron, and I've made a little pocket for this one, and I just sew round. It's a double-sided pocket, so it's all lined, and then just sew round it, reinforcing it because it's for a little girl, a 4-year-old. I don't want it to come apart, and so just quickly do that with some pink thread, and then I start by hemming those sides again, so you can see it really clearly here where I've hemmed. With it being a bigger apron as well, it's easier to see it. So I hem the sides, there's and the top, so that's the top there, a bit of scrap fabric there, and then go down the sides and hem them really quickly. I don't bother pinning. If I'm doing something like this, and the polyester is quite firm as well, so it's quite nice just to fold it and sew it through. And you can see I'm using a push button Brother sewing machine, and just do those sides really quickly. Get my scrap fabric ready. I have loads of these pieces of scraps all over my sewing room. I've put a little picture on the left hand side there of the apron, so as you can see what it looks like when it's finished. So again, completing that side, you can just see the pocket on the other side there, folding that over. And now it's time to put the two pieces together, the rainbow, and you can see it better with this apron as well because of the colours. So both aprons will go together once all the sides are done, and the top. So there we go, and back up towards the other armpit, or the armhole. Bit of scrap fabric there. The little scissors I use are just scissors from the pound shop. I have got some nice big Fiskars that I use for cutting out. So here I'm stitching the top of the apron, and I'm leaving two gaps about probably 1.5 inches wide, and double sewing there so there's no hole. And what I found with this one is I did like a little L-shaped when I was sewing this one. I have got an overlocker as well, but I didn't use it for these aprons. Because with them being lined, I didn't feel that you needed it. And again, when I'm going around this curve, I'm going a bit slower than normal to make sure I have no puckering. I noticed here that I'd done with the rainbow fabric, I've done it a little bit bigger, so I folded it over there so as it would be neat. I do sort of make it up as I go along sometimes. So this one here, you can see where I'm putting the channel in. You can see that I've done all the edging, and I'm putting the channel in here for the binding. And that was quite satisfying doing that because it worked out quite well. And I don't know if you saw there is a gap to put the binding through there. Just neatened that edge off there because it looked as if there was a gap. I always cut all of my little threads as soon as I can because I don't like doubling up on things. So again, here's the channel. I'm doing the channel there, I usually use the foot as the gauge really. Again, I'm not very good at measuring. It's what looks right, what feels right, and that's how I do them. And then I just sew that, double stitch that, and then that's the apron ready for the bias binding to go in. And of course I've already done the binding. There it is, and there's the apron, little pocket, and there's the binding. I'm not very good at doing videos. And then I get to wrap them up because this is an order and it's a Christmas wrapping, so I just had to use what I had, and I used some red paper for the pink apron and folded the apron up neatly and wrapped it. And you can see the embroidery there on the front. Hannah Banana, that was a custom order, and you can see the pocket, and then I fold it neatly in the packaging. Quite satisfying when you're wrapping up items that you've made. Sometimes I'm quite sad to see them go.